I never thought I'd bury a secret deep enough to choke a man. But that's exactly what I did to my son-in-law, Ethan. On the night he called me the Maid, in front of 200 guests at our family's annual Labor Day barbecue. The words hung in the humid Virginia air like smoke from the grill, slicing through the laughter of neighbors and the clink of beer bottles. I smiled, God. Did I smile, because in that moment, I knew the key I'd slip him later wasn't to the guest house. It was to the grave we'd both dug. One lie at a time. It started 6 months earlier, in the sterile glow of a Richmond courtroom, where I stood accused of embezzling $2.4 million from the family trust my late husband, Robert, had built from nothing but grit and a knack for flipping foreclosed properties in the 80s housing crash. The judge's gavel cracked like a rifle shot, and just like that, Madeline Hargrove, widow, philanthropist, the woman who'd raised 2 kids on casseroles and carpool duty, became a felon. 90 days in county lockup, probation for life, and a scarlet letter in the form of frozen assets that left me scraping by in the shadows of my own legacy. But here's the hook that still twists my gut. I didn't steal a dime. Ethan did. And I let him. You see, Ethan Caldwell wasn't just my daughter Lila's husband. He was the golden boy I'd handpicked to fix us all. Fresh out of Wharton with that Ivy League polish and a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. He swept into our lives 3 years ago like a summer storm, charming, relentless, promising Lila the stability she'd craved since her daddy's heart attack dropped him cold at 58. I saw potential in him. The kind Robert always hunted for in his deals. Sharp, hungry, willing to bend rules for the win. So when the trust started bleeding cash, offshore accounts siphoned dry, properties flipped into ghost listings, I confronted him in the oak-paneled study of our McLean estate, the one with the brass lamp that still smells like Robert's pipe tobacco. Ethan, this isn't a game, I'd said, sliding the ledger across the desk, my voice steady as the Potomac in flood season. We're talking felony territory. Lila's future. The foundation for those kids at the rec center, gone. He leaned back, that boyish grin cracking just enough to show teeth. Maddie, can I call you that? We're family. This is leverage, not theft. A little creative accounting to bail out the sinking ship. Your ship. Robert's empire's on life support. I'm the CPR. I should have seen the flip right there, the way his eyes darted to the door, like he was already plotting exits. But grief does funny things. It blinds you to the wolves in sheep suits. Robert had died owing back taxes on half our portfolio, and the IRS was circling like vultures over a Richmond landfill. Ethan promised to restructure, to turn red ink black with his Wall Street wizardry. And damn if he didn't. At first, profits spiked. Lila glowed like she'd won the lottery. And I played along, signing the falsified docs because admitting the truth meant unraveling everything we'd built. But then the auditors came. Faceless suits from the DOJ sniffing around for fraud in the wake of the 2022 crypto crash that had already gutted half the trusts in the Beltway. They found the shell companies, the laundered wires to Cayman banks, Ethan's handiwork. Every keystroke. He could have taken the fall, hell. With his connections, he might have lawyered his way to a slap on the wrist. Instead, he flipped. Called me from a burner phone the night before the raid. Maddie, it's me or you. Lila needs a provider, not a punchline. Take the hit. I'll make it right, offshore nest egg. Enough to start over. Family first, right? Family first. Those words poison me slower than arsenic in sweet tea. I confessed to it all in that interrogation room. Sweat beading on my collar, like confession beads. while Ethan stood outside the courthouse with Lila on his arm, playing the devastated son-in-law. "She's always been fragile since Robert," he told the press, his voice cracking just right for the evening news. Fragile. Who'd clawed through widowhood, chaired the PTA bake sales that funded half the school's roof repair, volunteered at the food bank every Tuesday like clockwork. Fragile. The barbecue was supposed to be our big reconciliation. 6 months post-sentencing. I'd sold the estate to cover restitution. Irony of ironies. To a developer Ethan vouched for, and downsized to a cramped bungalow in Arlington. The kind with peeling vinyl siding and a fridge that hummed like a chainsaw. Lila insisted on hosting at her new place. A sprawling colonial in Great Falls that screamed new money, infinity pool. Smart home tech that anticipated your every whim.
Mom.
"It's time to move on," she'd said over the phone, her voice all Southern Belle sympathy. "Ethan's got this catering gig lined up, real Virginia barbecue. Pulled pork and all. It'll be healing. Healing." As if words could stitch up the hole where my dignity used to be. I arrived early, arms laden with my famous pecan pie recipe from Robert's mama. The one that won blue ribbons at the state fair back when fairs were about community, not influencers snapping pics for the gram. Ethan greeted me at the door with that same grin, clapping me on the back a tad too hard. "Maddie, the prodigal returns. Grab an apron. We've got sides to prep." Apron. It should have been a red flag. But I was there for Lila. For the grandkids I hadn't held since the bars slammed shut. The party swelled, neighbors in khakis and sundresses. A state senator nursing a bourbon. Lila's yoga mom friends cooing over the charcuterie. I flitted about, refilling coolers, wiping down tables, old habits from hosting Robert's investor schmoozes. No one mentioned the trial. It was the elephant in the monogrammed napkins. Then it happened, right as the sun dipped low, painting the backyard in that golden hour haze that makes even Great Falls look poetic. Ethan was holding court by the grill, spatula in hand like a scepter, regaling the senator with tales of his latest disruptive startup, some app for tokenized real estate that sounded like a Ponzi dressed in blockchain drag. I approached with a fresh pitcher of Arnold Palmer's, the ice clinking like accusations. "Refill." "Gentlemen," I offered, pouring with the grace of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Ethan turned, eyes lighting up with malice I mistook for mischief at first. "Oh, perfect timing. Senator Hayes. Meet Maddie, our resident maid for the day. She's got the touch with these drinks, makes just hard enough to cut the bullshit." The laughter erupted like fireworks, polite at first, then rolling, the senator slapping his knee, a few wives exchanging glances that said, "Poor thing. Must be desperate post-scandal." My pitcher trembled, sweet tea sloshing over the rim. But I held steady. Lila was across the lawn, cradling baby Nora, oblivious. 200 eyes on me. And in that split second, I saw it. Ethan's flip again. This one for sport. To remind me of my place. The maid. The fall guy. The fool who'd saved his ass. I set the pitcher down, fished the house key from my pocket, the spare I'd kept from the old estate, engraved with our initials, and pressed it into his palm. "Here," I said, my voice honey over gravel, smiling wide enough to show teeth. "Unlock whatever doors you need."
Ethan.
Consider it a housewarming. He pocketed it, chuckling like it was all in fun. But I saw the flicker, the uncertainty. Good. The hook was set. That night, After the last guest stumbled to their Teslas and Ubers, I didn't go home to my bungalow. I drove straight to the old estate site, now a half-built subdivision called Hargrove Heights, Ethan's crowning irony. Named after the family he bled dry. The key fit the lock on the construction trailer, a dusty prefab that smelled of sawdust and fresh betrayal. Inside, files upon files, blueprints, wire transfers, the digital ghosts of his schemes. I'd known about the hidden drive since the raid, Ethan's arrogance, leaving breadcrumbs for the team player he'd counted on staying buried. But I wasn't burying anymore. I was exhuming. By dawn, I'd copied it all to a thumb drive, my hands steady as I synced it to a burner laptop bought with the last of my untraceable cash. Ethan's empire wasn't just built on my silence, it was laced with worse. The senator, bribed with kickbacks from the trust. Lila's yoga friends, investors in his app, funneled through me as the patsy. And the real gut punch, Robert's death certificate. Doctor timestamps showing Ethan had accessed his medical records pre-heart attack, pushing stress management pills that interacted lethally with his blood pressure meds. Not murder. Not quite, but manslaughter wrapped in negligence. Covered by a plea deal I'd unknowingly greased. I drove back to Great Falls as the Beltway clogged with morning commuters. Radio droning about another crypto bust in D.C. Lila texted Mom. Last night was amazing. Ethan's sorry if he joked too far. Love you. Love you. The words blurred through tears I wouldn't let fall.
Not yet.
Ethan was waiting on the porch when I pulled up, coffee mug in hand, looking every bit the concerned son-in-law in his Lululemon joggers. Maddie. About yesterday, heat of the moment. You know how these things get. I stepped out, the thumb drive burning in my pocket like contraband. Heat of the moment, I echoed, climbing the steps. Like when you rerouted the trust funds to your daddy's failing vineyard in Napa. Or when you photoshopped Robert's signature on the life insurance waiver. His mug paused mid-sip, eyes narrowing to slits. Flip number 3. Denial to deflection. You're unhinged. That stint in county fried your circuits. Lila warned me you'd spiral. Lila, I said, voice dropping to that register Robert used for closing deals, the one that promised ruin if you blinked. Does she know you proposed with a ring bought for my heirlooms? Pawned while I was in lockup? He lunged then, not violent, but close, grabbing my arm like a vice. You signed the papers. Maddie. Your choice. Now walk away, or I'll bury you deeper than before. I twisted free, the keychain from last night still dangling from his belt loop like a taunt. Bury me?
Boy.
I've been 6 feet under since you walked through our door. But here's the thing about graves, they echo. I left him there, steam rising from his forgotten coffee, and headed inside to Lila. She was in the kitchen, pureeing bananas for Nora's breakfast, her hair in that messy bun that screamed effortless privilege. Mom, you're back early. Everything okay? I hugged her, inhaling the scent of baby powder and Chanel No. 5. The life she'd built on my bones. Better than okay, sweetheart. Just tying up loose ends. That afternoon, I met with a fixer, real name redacted, but call him Tommy, a ex-cop turned PI who'd owed Robert a favor from a 90s land scam. We huddled in a dive bar off I-95, the kind with peanut shells on the floor and jukebox tunes about lost loves and loaded guns. This Ethan's slime. Maddie. Tommy grunted over his Bud Light, scrolling the drive's files on his battered tablet. But flipping him means flipping the whole deck. Senators involved, Maybe feds if we push the med tampering. You sure? Sure? Hell. I was surer than I'd been since Robert's funeral, when the preacher quoted Ecclesiastes about seasons and vengeance. Do it quiet. No splash until the barbecue encore, Thanksgiving. Let him sweat. The weeks blurred into a tense waltz. Ethan ramped up the charm offensive, flowers delivered to my bungalow with notes in his looping script, forgive a fool, and accidental run-ins at Lila's book club, where he'd play the doting dad, bouncing Nora on his knee while shooting me glances that screamed back off. But I saw the cracks, his startups tanking under scrutiny. Calls from Cayman banks going unanswered. Lila's puzzled texts about weird deposits in their joint account. I played my part, the wounded matriarch, baking pies for church suppers, volunteering double shifts at the food bank to rebuild my image. Whispers followed me through the aisles of the Harris Teeter. That's her. The embezzler. But I smiled, handed out coupons like olive branches. Because, in Virginia, reputation's a currency deadlier than debt. Lila cornered me one crisp October afternoon at the pumpkin patch. Hay bales stacked like accusations under a sky bruised purple. Nora toddled between us, clutching a tiny gourd, while Ethan browsed the cider stand 50 yards off, watching. Always watching. Mom, what's going on? Ethan's distant.
And you're
different. Like you're carrying a bomb. I knelt, wiping dirt from Nora's cheek. The little one's eyes, Robert's eyes, staring up trusting. Bombs don't tick. Lila. They just go off. Your husband's got some explaining to do. But not today. She pressed, tears welling like they had at her wedding, when Robert's ghost loomed large. Is this about the trial?
God. Mom.
We all make mistakes. Ethan's forgiven you. Forgiven me? The laugh bubbled up bitter, startling a nearby crow into flight.
Oh, honey.
The only mistake was mine. Trusting a snake in seersucker. She recoiled. And, in that moment, I hated him more for turning me into the villain in her fairy tale. But hate's a forge, and it hammered my resolve sharper. Thanksgiving loomed like a guillotine. The encore barbecue was Ethan's idea, a harvest feast for donors to his latest venture. The Hargrove Heights launch party. 200 again. Plus press, local bloggers. A Washington Post stringer sniffing for scandal. I'd RSVP'd yes. Of course. With a covered dish of green bean casserole, classic, unassuming, laced with just enough truth serum in metaphor. The night arrived cold. Fairy lights strung across the patio like nooses. The air thick with wood smoke and whispered deals. I arrived last, casserole in hand, dressed in black wool that whispered widow's weeds but cut sharp as a stiletto. Ethan greeted me at the gate, arm around Lila, his smile a rictus.
Maddie.
Glad you made it. Try the turducken, my recipe. Yours, I said, handing off the dish to a caterer. Everything's yours these days. Isn't it? The party hummed. Toasts to prosperity. Nora in a pilgrim bonnet toddling through legs. The senator holding court on election odds. I circulated, nursing a spiked cider. Ears tuned to Ethan's pitch. Hargrove Heights. Legacy redefined. Legacy. The words soured on my tongue. Then Tommy's text buzzed. Package delivered. Lights out in 5. I nodded to no one. Slipped to the edge of the crowd where a projector screen flickered with renderings of the subdivision. Our old home. Reborn in pixelated glory. The feed glitched, then shifted, not blueprints, but bank statements. Wire transfers from the trust to Ethan's accounts. Timestamps matching my confession date. Gasps rippled as the senator's name scrolled. Kickbacks. Favors. Then the medical file. Robert's chart. Ethan's login. The fatal script overlap, highlighted in red. Chaos erupted, shouts. Phones whipping out. Lila's cry cutting through like a siren. What the hell is this? Ethan bolted for the projector. Face ashen. But Tommy's boys, two burly shadows from the catering crew, blocked him casual as checking IDs. Easy,
Sir.
Show's just starting. I stepped forward, the crowd parting like Red Sea judgment, and faced him. The maid's done cleaning.
Ethan.
Time you mopped your own mess. He lunged again, this time wild, voice cracking. You bitch. This is forgery. Save it for the feds. Sirens wailed distant. Closing fast. Someone, the stringer, probably, had tipped 911 on the anonymous line I'd greased. Lila clutched Nora, eyes darting between us. Horror dawning.
Mom? Ethan?
What did you? But the twist hit like a sucker punch. Not from him, but from the screen's final frame. My signature. Bold and black. On the very waiver that doomed Robert. Forged?
No.
Real. I'd signed it months before. In a haze of grief. At Ethan's urging. Just a formality. For the estate planning. He'd twisted it later.
But the ink was mine.
The crowd murmured. Phones capturing the fracture. Was she in on it? Co-conspirator? Ethan laughed then. Manic. As cuffs clicked home.
See?
She's no victim. We were partners. Ladies and gentlemen. The dynamic duo of desperation. Lila's gaze locked on mine. Betrayal blooming fresh, hers for me now.
Mom.
You knew. I couldn't lie. Not with Nora's wail piercing the night. I knew enough to stop it.
But yeah.
Honey. I knew. The arrest was swift. Ethan dragged to a squad car, ranting about frames and family. The senator slinking off into the woods like a fox. Lila turned away. Nora in arms. The life we'd all built crumbling under fairy lights that now mocked like fireflies at a funeral. They released me that night. No charges. Tommy's work, but the damage was nuclear. Lila filed for divorce by dawn. Custody battle looming. Her texts a barrage of how could you? And we were family. The press feasted. Hargrove heiress's mother. Mastermind or martyr. Neighbors who'd waved hello now cross streets. The bungalow's walls closing in like a cell I'd never left. Was it revenge? Damn right. But as I sat in the empty kitchen, pecan pie cooling on the sill uneaten, unshared, the twist lingered. In handing Ethan those keys, I'd unlocked my own cage too. Free, but fractured. The grave echoed both ways. And in the quiet, with snow dusting the Virginia pines outside, I wondered if the real betrayal was mine, for loving a lie long enough to let it scar. I stared at the eviction notice taped to my bungalow door for 3 days straight, the paper curling in the November chill like a bad joke that wouldn't quit. Premises uninhabitable due to structural compromise, it read. Courtesy of a leaky roof I'd patched with duct tape and denial since the trial drained my savings. But the real compromise was structural in my soul, cracked wide by that Thanksgiving implosion, where I'd played Avenger and ended up the accused all over again. Lila hadn't spoken to me since, her silence a deeper cut than Ethan's barbs. And Nora's absence? That was the void Robert used to fill with bedtime stories about bootstraps and bad luck. Tommy called on day 4, his gravel voice crackling through the burner I'd kept. Maddie's got options. That thumb drive?
Gold mine.
Feds are building a RICO case. Ethan's singing like a canary in lockup. But he's pointing fingers every which way but his own. Senators lawyered up. But whispers say he's flipping too. You want in on the civil suit? Could net you restitution. Maybe even the old estate back. Restitution. The word tasted like ashes in weak coffee. What's the play?
Tommy?
I torch my daughter's world for a check. He chuckled. Low and world-weary. Worlds torch themselves.
Kid.
You're just the match. But yeah, class action from the investors. Lila's crew included. They'd owe you testimony. Testimony from yoga moms who'd ghosted me post-scandal? I hung up, but the seed took root, twisting like kudzu over a graveyard fence. I couldn't stay in Arlington. Not with the landlord's truck idling outside, engine rumbling threats. So I packed what fit in my Corolla, photo albums yellowed with time. Robert's old Timex that still ticked defiant, a single heirloom necklace I'd reclaimed from Ethan's pawn slip, and hit the road south, chasing ghosts down I-95 toward the Outer Banks. The drive was a blur of wah-wah stops and classic rock anthems, Springsteen wailing about highways and heartaches, fitting as a glove. North Carolina welcomed me with salt air and skepticism. I crashed at a no-tell-motel in Kitty Hawk, the kind where seagulls outnumbered guests and the neon sign buzzed vacancy, like a migraine. There, in room 7 with its lumpy bed and Bible in the drawer, I exhumed the next layer. Emails from Ethan's came in contact, decrypted by Tommy's tech whiz nephew. Not just theft, extortion. He'd blackmailed the senator over an affair with a lobbyist's wife, using trust funds as the hush money pipeline. And me? I'd initialed the transfers. Blind faith, my ink. But the deeper dig revealed the flip that gutted me. Robert hadn't died clean. Ethan had been his protege. Interning summers at the firm, privy to the stress tests, the endless audits, the '08 crash echoes that kept Robert popping beta blockers like Tic-Tacs. The management pills? Prescribed off books by a doc Ethan knew from frat days. A quack who'd lost his license for overprescribing opioids in the Sackler shadow. Ethan hadn't pushed them maliciously. Not at first, just a favor to calm the old man's nerves during a brutal negotiation. But when Robert flatlined mid-deal, Ethan saw opportunity. Reroute the insurance payout. Blame the widow's mismanagement. I clutched the Motel Gideon Bible that night. Pages sticking with humidity. Praying not for forgiveness, but clarity. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Yeah. Well.
The Lord's been busy with hurricanes. This was DIY. By week 2, I'd landed a gig waitressing at a crab shack off the beach, irony's favorite cousin, slinging Old Bay fries to tourists in flip-flops while wearing an apron that screamed Maid Redux. The owner, Sal, was a grizzled vet with a prosthetic leg and zero filter. You got that Virginia polish, sweetheart, but eyes like you've seen the Devil's Ledger. Suits me fine, keeps the drunks in line.
Nights.
I'd walk the dunes, wind whipping secrets from the Atlantic, plotting the endgame. Ethan's arraignment was set for January in Richmond, federal court. The works. I'd testify. Sure. But not as victim. As co-conspirator turned conscience, dropping the bomb that he'd groomed me from day one, preying on widow's grief. Controversial? Hell yes. Paints me complicit. Him the puppeteer. Lila the innocent casualty. Readers, because by now, the Post had serialized the saga as the Maid's revenge, would split hairs. Was I hero or harpy? Enabler or emancipator? Christmas came cardboard box style, a poinsettia from Sal, A voicemail from Tommy updating the suit. Lila's lawyering up separate, wants her cut of the trust back. Says you're poison. But blood's blood, she'll crack. Poison. The accusation stung. But I swallowed it with spiked eggnog, toasting alone to fractured families. New Year's Eve. The crab shack overflowed with revelers, fireworks popping over the pier. Couples grinding to Sweet Caroline like it was 1999. I was mid-shift, dodging a frat boy's grabby hands, when my phone vibrated. Unknown number. Lila's area code. Heart slamming like waves on jetty rocks. I ducked to the alley, grease-stained apron flapping. Mom, her voice, small and storm-tossed. It's me. Nora said gamma today. First word.
I
need to see you. The hook yanked hard, love's cruelest flip. Lila. Baby. Where are you? Richmond. Packing up the house. Ethan's stuff, it's everywhere. Like roaches. The feds seized half.
But. God. Mom.
What did we do?
We.
The pronoun mended a stitch. Nothing we can't undo. Meet me halfway? Nag's head. That kitschy diner off 158. Noon tomorrow. She agreed, voice cracking on goodbye. I hung up, tears salting the alley grime. And for the first time since the barbecue, hope flickered, not bright, but stubborn as dune grass. The diner was all formica and fried okra. Kitty Hawk kitsch with Wright Brothers portraits yellowing on the walls. Lila arrived late, Nora in a car seat gnawing a teething ring, her face gaunt under perfect makeup, mascara smudges betraying the facade. We hugged, awkward, over the booth. Nora's chubby hand reaching for my necklace. The one with Robert's initial dangling like a talisman. You look beachy, she said, forcing a smile as the waitress plunked down sweet tea's sweating rings on the menu. Beachy beats buried, I replied, stirring in sugar till it dissolved like lies. How's my girl? Nora babbled, oblivious. And for a beat, it was just us, mother-daughter. Pre-Ethan. Pre-Empire. Then the questions flooded. Did you know about Dad? The pills. I nodded. Throat tight.
Not till after. Ethan.
He was Robert's blind spot. Ambitious kid. Full of promise. But promise turns predatory when unchecked. She traced the table's grain, eyes distant. He proposed because I was the key, to you? To the trust. Said it outright once. Drunk on bourbon at the vineyard. Marrying up's the American dream. Babe. I laughed it off. God. Mom. I was so blind.
Blind.
We'd both been. Trading vigilance for visions of white pickets and 401ks. The suit, Tommy's pushing. You in? She hesitated. Nora fussing. Then nodded fierce.
In.
But after. After the trial. I want out. New start. Seattle. Maybe. Away from this circus. Seattle. The distance ached, but I swallowed it.
Fair.
But Nora comes too. And you. If you want. The offer hung. A lifeline or noose. I squeezed her hand. Let's survive January 1st. We parted with promises, weekly calls, shared custody of the truth, and I drove back to the motel lighter. The Corolla's tires humming hymns on blacktop. But flips being what they are, Ethan's next move came swift, a letter from his public defender. Forwarded via Tommy. Yes. Hargrove, my client wishes to negotiate. Full confession for leniency on your complicity. Meet at the detention center. 2 p.m. Friday.
Come alone.
Alone. As if I ever hadn't. The center loomed brutal on Richmond's outskirts, barbed wire framing cinderblock despair. Guards eyeballing me like fresh meat. Ethan shuffled an orange. Chains rattling soft as whispers. That grin subdued but sly.
Maddie.
Looking sun-kissed. Outer Banks agree with you. Cut the charm.
Ethan.
What's the ask?
He leaned in.
Glass partition fogging breath. The drive, you leaked it.
Fine.
But that waiver?
Your sig.
Your sin. Testify clean. And I bury the med angle. Robert OD'd fair and square. Stress. Not sabotage. Lila gets the house. Nora the trust. You walk free. But forgotten. Forgotten. The word clawed. And if I don't, his eyes gleamed, flipped to feral. I testify you push the pills. Grieving widow. Desperate for control, classic profile. Feds love a narrative. Lila loses everything, you lose her forever. Blackmail's old perfume, cloying, familiar. I press palm to glass. Inches from his. You forget.
Boy.
I handed you the keys once. This time, I'm changing the locks. I left him there. Echoing laughs chasing me down the hall. And straight to the U.S. Attorney's office. No negotiation, just the full download. Emails. Timestamps. The Quack Doc's license revocation tied to Ethan's frat payoff. He's flipping again, I told the prosecutor. A no-nonsense type named Reyes with a stare like federal steel. But I'm done dancing. Reyes nodded, filing the addendum. This strengthens the case. Manslaughter bump, intentional negligence. You,
Witness.
full disclosure. Even the parts that paint me ugly. She arched a brow. Controversial choice. Ennis. Hargrove. Jury might see enabler. Let em. Better than silent. January's trial was a circus tent pitched in federal court, cameras flashing outside like paparazzi. Inside, a jury of Beltway burgers eyeballing us like exhibits. Ethan took the stand first. Suit tailored thin as his excuses. Maddie was the architect, pushed me into it. Post Robert. Grief makes monsters. Gasps. Sketches in the gallery. Lila in the back row stone-faced. Nora with a sitter. My turn came day 3. Oath heavy as humidity. I laid it bare. The signatures. The blindness. The moment in the study when I'd chosen family over felony. Ethan was the spark, I said, voice steady under Rhea's coaching. But I fanned the flames. Betrayal's a two-way street, paved with good intentions. The defense tore in. So you admit complicity? Forged docs. Laundered funds. All to preserve your legacy. Yes, I fired back. No flinch. And no. Legacy's what you leave. Not steal. I stole silence. He stole everything else. Lila testified last, brittle. Beautiful. Her words a scalpel. He courted me for the keys to her kingdom.
But Mom?
She locked the door when it mattered. Verdict dropped like a gavel guillotine. Guilty on all. Embezzlement. Fraud. Manslaughter. 20 years. No parole soon. The courtroom exhaled. Flashes popping. But I zeroed on Lila. Her nod faint across the aisle. Absolution or armistice.
Outside.
Snow flurried fat flakes. burying the steps in white lies. Reporters swarmed. MS. Hargrove. Vindication or vendetta? I smiled, that same one from the barbecue. Keys long tossed, and said, both. America's favorite flavor. Spring thawed the Outer Banks slow. Like a hangover from winter's bender, dunes greening tentative. Tourists trickling back with their coolers and cover-ups. Oblivious to the undercurrents. I'd upgraded from the motel to a rented A-frame in Corolla. Weathered cedar that creaked like confessions in the wind. Paid for by the first restitution check. $800,000. A drop in the trust's drained bucket, but enough to breathe. Sal kept me on part-time at the crab shack. For the color, he grumbled. Though we both knew it was pity wrapped in paychecks.
Nights.
I'd sit on the deck with a fire pit crackling, Robert's Timex on my wrist ticking toward what-ifs, while Lila's updates pinged sporadic, Nora's walking. House sold. Seattle Scout next month. The civil suit dragged like molasses in January, depositions in hotel conference rooms smelling of stale coffee and stalemates. Yoga moms crumbling under cross-exam. The senator settling out of court for a 7-figure hush that screamed guilty. I testified remote. Screen glowing my beach-tousled truth. And watched the judgments roll in. Lila got the lion's share. Enough for a fresh start in the Pacific Northwest. Condos and college funds.
Me?
Enough to buy the A-frame outright. Plus a buffer for the foundation. Robert's legacy reborn. Scholarships for kids from busted homes. No strings but survival. But flips don't end with verdicts, they echo. Ethan's appeal hit in April. A Hail Mary from his new lawyer, a Fox News darling spinning wronged Wall Street Wonder Boy narratives. Coerced by the mother-in-law harpy, the filings read. Leaked to Vanity Fair for maximum mud. My face splashed across feeds again, the Maid's encore, manipulation or madness, with armchair jurists splitting, justice for Ethan trending alongside Madeline Me Too. Debates raging in comment sections like bar fights over the last bud. Lila called mid-furor. Her voice tinny over spotty cell. Mom. It's everywhere. Nora's preschool asked if you're that lady.
I
told them yes. And she's proud.
Proud.
The word warmed like the fire pit's embers. Proud hurts. Baby. But it's honest. She paused. Waves crashing backdrop to her end. Seattle's set, house in Ballard. Job at a startup. Real one. No schemes.
But.
Come visit? Teach Nora the pie thing. The invite tugged. A thread to mend or sever. Soon as the appeal dusts. Promise. We hum light. But sleep evaded. Chased by dreams of keys unlocking cells, mine.
His.
The ones we build from bone. Tommy checked in weekly. His PI network pinging pings. Kids cracking in Supermax. Letters to Lila.
Also be stories.
Burn 'em. I didn't. One arrived forwarded. Ethan's script cramped on prison stationery. Maddie. Turns out bars sharpen regrets. The pills? Accident. But your sig sealed it. Forgive? For Lila's sake. Forgive. The audacity ignited. But under it, pity flickered for the boy who'd chased American dreams till they devoured him. May brought bloom and blowback. A documentary crew from HBO sniffing around. Empire of Envy. The Hargrove betrayal. We want your side. The producer cooed over Zoom. All Brooklyn earnest.
Raw.
Real. The controversy's catnip. Controversy. My life reduced to clickbait. I declined polite. Tell it straight. I've got crabs to shuck, but they filmed anyway. Piecing public scraps with Ethan's jailhouse interviews. Painting me the schemer. Him the scapegoat. Lila fumed in texts. They're twisting it. Again. I replied, Ludden. Truth's the twist that lasts. Summer swelled the beach crowds. My shift's a ballet of orders and ocean views, sunsets bleeding orange into the surf. Kids building sand empires doomed to tide. Sal's health dipped, chemo sapping his bark. So I stepped up, managing the shack solo some nights. Apron my armor. It grounded me. That salt-rimmed routine. A far cry from McLean manners and Beltway brunches. Folks tipped generous, sensing stories in my silences. And one regular, an ex-Navy shrink named Hal, with laugh lines deep as anchor chains, started lingering post-close. You're not running from something, he said one July eve, nursing a seltzer on the patio as I locked up. You're running to it. Hal had that therapist gaze, peeling layers without scalpels. Widowed too, wife to cancer. 5 years gone. He shared war tales over shared smokes. Metaphors for my mess. Battles end, but the fog lingers. You steering through, swerving, I admitted, exhaling smoke towards stars pricking the indigo. Ethan's appeal, denied last week. 20 sticks. He nodded. No pity. Closure's a myth. But justice? That's the North Star. North Star. It guided my next flip, reaching out to the feds with a Hail Mary of my own. Not for Ethan, but Robert, exhuming the Quack Docs file, pushing for a coroner's review. Manslaughter's cold comfort, I told Reyes over an encrypted call. Make it count, she agreed, wheels turning bureaucratic slow. Risky. MS. Hargrove. Opens old wounds, yours included. Wounds scar strong. I thought, hanging up to the hum of cicadas. Lila arrived unannounced in August. Corolla crunching shells in the lot. Nora a whirlwind of 2-year-old energy in pigtails and light-up sneakers. Surprise inspection, she announced. Hugging fierce. Nora burrowing into my legs with a squeal of gamma. We spent the day dune hopping. Nora's giggles chasing gulls. Lila unspooling Seattle dreams over picnic lunches of crab rolls and contraband cores. It's clean there, no ghosts. But Nora asks for you. Says beach gamma in her sleep.
Ghosts.
They followed us to the A-frame that night. Fire pit roaring as Nora dozed inside to finding Nemo on low. Lila poked embers. Sparks rising like accusations. The doc thing, Reyes called. They're reopening Dad's file. Because of you. Not me, I corrected gentle.
Us.
Finishing what he started. She teared up. Firelight gilding her face young again. I blamed you.
Mom.
After the trial. Thought you chose the lie over us. Never over, I said, arm around her shoulders. The necklace glinting shared. For you. Always. Even when it broke me. We sat till embers died. Silence companionable. The flip to fragile peace. September's labor pains birthed the inquest. Robert's death recast in fluorescent autopsy lights. The quack spilling under immunity. Kid, Ethan, asked for commerce. I scripted off-label. Hargrove was stressed. Signing everything blind. My deposition followed. Virtual from the A-frame. Voice steady as I owned the waiver. Grief's a signature on the dotted line.
But intent?
That was never mine. The ruling dropped mid-month. Homicide by negligence. Ethan indicted additional, 30 years now. Appeals exhausted. News rippled. Maid's final key unlocks murder charge. Controversy crested. Pundits pillaring my meddling. supporters crowning me vigilante queen. Lila texted a screenshot of Nora finger-painting Gamma strong, and I laughed till it hurt. Hal proposed coffee not dates in October. Our talks evolving from fog to futures, his boat in the marina. My shack shifts, winding down as restitution bloomed the foundation full. Come sail, he asked one dusk, hands calloused kind. Winds change, might as well ride. I did. That weekend, mainsail, snapping crisp. Atlantic vast and vindicating. No rings. No rushes, just horizon lines blurring blame. November circled back to roots, Lila's harvest visit. Great Falls ghosts vanished. Us 3 baking pies in the A-frame kitchen. Flour dusting like fresh starts. Nora helped, doughy hands everywhere. Her laughter the sweetest revenge. Ethan's last letter came Yuletide. Postmarked Supermax. Keys turned on me. Maddie. But in the dark. Truth's the only light. Tell Lila, sorry's not enough. But it's start. I burned it in the pit, ashes scattering to surf song. As 2026 dawned, snow rare on the banks dusting dunes white, I stood deckside with Hal's arm loose around me. Lila and Nora waving from the departing Corolla, Seattle bound. But rooted now. The twist? No one's wholly right. Ethan's ambition a mirror to my enabling. Lila's blindness kin to my own. Vengeance? It mended more than it marred. And in that quiet, with waves whispering enough, I smiled real, keys to a kingdom reclaimed, one forgiving flip at a time. The Outer Banks winter of 26 bit harder than Virginia's. Winds howling off the Gulf Stream like scorned lovers. But my A-frame held firm, cedar bones seasoned by storms. Much like mine. Restitution checks had stacked steady. The foundation thriving. 10 scholarships awarded by March. Kids from Richmond row houses and Norfolk docks penning thank yous that read like Robert's old deal memos, grit-gilded gratitude. I'd stepped down from the crab shack full-time. Sal waving me off with a gruff, don't be stranger. Polish girl, his chemo crown a hard-won halo. Hal's sales became routine. Our not dates evolving unspoken, shared suppers of she-crab soup. His navy yarns dovetailing my widow woes. No pressure but presence. Lila's visits anchored the drift, monthly now. Seattle's rains swapped for beach balm. Nora a tornado of 3-year-old queries. Gamma. Why poppin' box? We'd skirt the shadows gentle. Me spinning tales of Papa's long trip. Learning lessons far away. Truth trickled in doses. Ethan's letters forwarded. Read-alouds over cocoa where Lila edited the venom. Salvaging sorries for cents. He's writing a book, she confided one April gale. Nora napping to wind chime lullabies. Prison memoir. Keys to the kingdom, betrayed by the maid. Publisher sniffing, controversy sells. Controversy. The word chafed less now. A callous over old cuts. The HBO doc dropped that spring, Empire of Envy streaming to Emmy's buzz. My cameos clipped from newsreels. Voiceover narrating the Harpy's arc with dramatic swells. Critics split savage, gripping Greek tragedy versus exploitative schlock. Victim blaming the enabler. I hosted a watch party at the A-frame, Hal popping popcorn. Lila remote from Seattle. Us 3 generations, Nora included. Oblivious to subtitles, dissecting over wine. They got the flip wrong, Lila mused. Pausing on Ethan's teary interview. Wasn't just you handing keys, it was me. Locking the door on doubt. Her insight landed like a rogue wave. Cool and clarifying. We'd all flipped, me from protector to patsy. Ethan from protege to predator. Lila from bride to bridge burner. Nora. Bless her. Flip channels post-credits to Bluey. Restoring sanity with pup antics. Summer 26 swelled with sales and surprises. Hal's knee replacement sidelined him dock-bound. So I crewed solo on his sloop. Resolute. Learning knots and navigation from YouTube vids that made Robert's bootstraps proud. The Foundations Gala. Virtual Gala. Beltway style. Netted double. Donors drawn by the dock's notoriety. Toasting. Madeline's mandate. No more silent signatures. I keynote brief. Screen glow earnest. Betrayals bipartisan left. Right. Family divides. But revenge? That's the vote we cast daily. Choosing truth over tombs. Post-gala glow faded fast. Ethan's book deal ink-dried in July. Keys hitting shelves with a 60-minute splash, him in Supermax grays. Spinning coerced redemption. Maddie Hargrove was a maid. She was maestro. He crooned to Morley. Clips viralizing Maid Maestro memes. Lila seethed cross-country. He's profiting off pain. Sue. I demurred. But Tommy itched. Defamation angle. Twist his words against him. Parole board hates spotlights.
No.
Vengeance, velvet-gloved now. Not iron fist. Instead, I pen my counter. Echoes from the grave. A widow's unlocking. Ghosted light by a freelancer. Raw recount in first-person prose. No hatchets. Just hooks. The study confrontation. The courtroom confession. That barbecue smile as scalpel. Publisher scooped it fall. Release time to Ethan's paperback push. Dueling doorstops. Controversies cash cow. Launch week. October fog thick as fame. I drove north for the Richmond signing. Indie bookstore humming with locals. Mix of skeptics and sympathizers clutching copies like contraband.
Hal tagged shotgun.
His limp gamely ignored. Murmuring steady as she goes, at every red light. The line snaked modest 50 souls. Not stadiums, but potent. A food bank volunteer teary over scholarships. A former trust investor nodding grim kinship. Then she appeared, Lila. Unannounced again. Nora in tow, with a sign scrawled Gama's truth. Couldn't miss the flip, she grinned. Hugging Q-Crash. We signed side by side. My steady script beside her flourish. Nora autographing, with crayons on end papers. Ethan's shadow loomed via proxy. A heckler in the back. Young suit reeking Wall Street. Shouting enabler as flashes popped. I paused mid-pen. Met his glare cool. Guilty. But enabled ends when eyes open. Yours? The room hushed. Then clapped tentative flip to favor. He slunk out. Tail tucked. And Hal whispered post-event over victory beers at a dive. That was Captain's log. Maddie. Proud. Proud swelled seasonal. Thanksgiving 26 a full-circle feast at the A-frame. Lila and Nora flown in. Sal hobbling down from Kitty Hawk with his famous law. Tommy zooming toasts from his PI perch. No barbecue ghosts, just turkey carved casual. Stories swapped sand skeletons. Nora led Grace. Lisping, thanks for keys that open hearts, her mashup of our lore drawing laughs liquid as the gravy. December deep in the digs. Ethan's book bombed mid-charts. Reviews roasting his whiny whataboutism, while echoes climbed. Oprah Book Club whispers turning pages. Royalties rebuilt the rec center roof, full circle to Robert's 80s flips, and I donated Ethan's cut from the civil pot to victim funds. Anonymous as amends. Christmas Eve. Hal and I walked the beach post-Santa. Nora's new bike gleaming porchside. Waves lapping luminous under moon. This it, he asked. Gloved hand finding mine. Breath fogging shared. This, I echoed. necklace swaying with the tide's pull. Keys kept, graves filled. New Year's dawn decisive. Lila's Seattle house closed. Her startup gig greenlit. But with a curve, Nora wants dual coasts. Beach summers. We'd co-parent the continuum. Flips folded into family. The final twist unspooled quiet. February frost. A letter from Ethan. Not contrite but cracked. Book's dust. Your echo's louder. Tell the kid, Grandpa Robert would have hated me, but loved her fierce. Pass the key. Enclosed. A drawing from Supermax Art Therapy. A house. Simple lines.
Door ajar.
I framed it. Hung in Nora's beach room. Lesson in lines blurred. No one's villain or victor, just voyagers. Navigating the gray. By spring 27, the A-frame expanded, a guest wing for Lila's visits. Foundation, offices, humming hybrid. Hal's ring came casual over crab claws. No kneel but knowing. Sale permanent? I yesed. Wedding small on resolute. Vows wind-whipped with witnesses. Sal officiating gruff. Tommy best man toasting to flips that stick. Nora scattered petals like promises. Lila maid of honor in linen. Her bump announced postitos. Half-sister for the empire. Laughter lapped waves. The cycle spinning soft. Years blurred benevolent. Nora's school plays casting me wise witch. Lila's partner a steady engineer sans schemes. Ethan's parole denied thrice. Letters tapering to holiday cards. His flip to faded footnote. The Foundation franchise national. Madeline's mandate mantra in boardrooms from Boston to Boise. And me, at 60. Salt-speckled but unbowed. I'd hand keys no more, except to Nora on her sweet 16. The A-frame deed whispering yours now. She'd smile that smile, mine. Robert's. Unscarred. And I'd know, revenge's real yield is release. In the end, the grave echoed empty. We'd all risen. Controversial as dawn over dunes, divided, debated.
But damn if we didn't shine.